Podcast Network Asia.
What's going on? This is Xavier Woods, aka Austin Creed.
Welcome to the big time!
Hello, WWE Universe in the Philippines. This is Charlotte.
You know your damn role and shut your damn mouth.
Hey everyone, this is Jeff Cobb.
I have to finish the story.
We are pretty deadly. Yes, boy. Yes, boy.
Hello, my name is Ilya Dragunov, the Star.
Bang! The sniper is shooting you down. This is TMDK's Robbie Eagles, and you are listening to the Wrestling Podcast.
You're listening to the longest-running weekly episodic Filipino wrestling podcast. This is the Wrestling Podcast. Stan C and Romoran at your service. It's the OG lineup of the pod for this audio-only picks of the week special. No Chino, no Emil ASH, no Rowan ASH. So it's going to be a faster episode than usual just because there's two of us on this episode. Before we get to our picks of the week, as always, puno na naman yung slate natin. How about we get some plugs? Let's start off with the Patreon department where you can be part of our growing wrestling podcast patron community. You got your pasabays, which should be happening in about a few months when the sales happen. Pag Black Friday, you'll also have viewing parties that we bring to you for all of the big shows. Well, not SummerSlam. We'll talk about that in a bit. And of course, you can be part of a community on Discord in which we talk about sports, music, fashion, TV, Barbie and Oppenheimer for those who've already seen it. I'm going to be bowing out of that discussion muna since I haven't. And everything else in between that you'd like to talk about on top of all of the wrestling that's going on all around the world. And you can be part of that very fun and supportive community for as low as $5 or about 260, 270 pesos sa pera natin. So go ahead and join the fun over on patreon.com/wrestling podcast.
All right, so we have a SummerSlam viewing party coming up. I know you were asking. I know you wanted to have a live viewing party, especially we didn't have one for Money in the Bank. But it's back in U.S. time. We're having it in Detroit, Ford Field. And we're doing this live at Skinny Mike Sports Bar in BGC, August 6th. That's Sunday. Doors open at 6:30 a.m. All you got to do to get into the show, into the party, is head over to snack.ph/Geek Talk PH. That's snackph.ph/GEKTALKPH. Tickets are at 400 pesos early bird. We're only selling them online until July 30. That is later this week and this weekend as well. So if you're thinking of getting the cheaper prices, please, bilhin na kayo kasi mauubusan siya. After July 30, you will have to buy it at the door, 500 pesos. Got no choice here. So if you've been thinking of watching the show with us live, you want to witness main event Jey Uso possibly take the Universal WWE Undisputed Championship against Roman Reigns, and maybe see Finn Balor take the World Heavyweight Championship from Seth Rollins with us, with a whole bunch of people, with your friends from us, the Wrestling Podcast, and your favorite TikTokers from Geek Talk PH, Legend Dennis, Galactic Shark, and the whole crew. It's right there at Skinny Mike Sports Bar on August 6th. You get a free iced tea as well with your ticket purchase. And if you're not near the area, if you find that that's too far for you, our friends over at Hobby Stadium also have a SummerSlam viewing party over there at Hobby Stadium, New Manila, Quezon City. It's free. You can get in for free, pero syempre mahiya naman tayo. Let's buy some food and drinks from them. It's early in the morning, so breakfast from them is really, really good. Like the coffee helped me stay up during Night of Champions, so I vouch for that. So wherever you are in the metro, wherever it's more convenient for you, there are always options as we watch SummerSlam, the biggest party of the summer, live on August 6th.
We're going to see you there. Really looking forward to having all of you over at Skinny Mike's BGC or over at Hobby Stadium if you want to join our friends over in New Manila. All right, let's get to our picks of the week. I'm going to start with mine since we're going to go chronological for this week's edition. And I'm going to pick something that might not be on your radar. And it's the WWE on the weakest link. So first off, yes, my weakest link pa rin. They actually rebooted the show at the height of the pandemic. So in 2020, they shot it. Then since 2021, there's been a new season every year. And it's hosted by Jane Lynch. That Jane Lynch from Glee. It's a lot of fun, especially for me. I grew up watching game shows like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and The Weakest Link. And every time there's a crossover between things I love, like wrestling and The Weakest Link, I'm all over that. So just so you know, meron ding Weakest Link episode featuring WWE wrestlers all the way back in 01 or 02. Yep. Edge was there, Bubba Ray was there, Booker T was there.
Yeah.
The Big Show, I believe Terry Runnels was also there. So it's nice to see an updated version of that playing out on TV. And this one was really fun just because of the banter between everyone who was involved. So it was Seth and Becky, all three members of the New Day, Alexa Bliss, Bianca Belair, and The Miz. And I just love the banter. Even though, you know, they kind of kept it kayfabe, very playful pa rin naman yung batuhan nila. And one of my favorite bits throughout the thing was whenever they would not be able to answer anything, their default answer would be Delaware. So apparently may strategy daw pala yun. Na they're hoping na they're gonna hit it at some point. So Delaware lang sila ng Delaware instead of saying pass or I don't know. So that was kind of weird.
I didn't quite understand that strategy. So I just picked up, okay, this is their word for I don't know. So that was fun. I have fond memories of watching The Weakest Link of the Philippines, starring Edo Manzano as the host. Yep. I found this particular episode of The Weakest Link too light. You know, if you watch The Weakest Link, you would know that it's super tense. Diba? Yeah. Everyone is literally on their toes because they've been made to distrust each other. Mm-hmm. Here, syempre, you work with each other, you know each other, so you can't really foster that distrust. But syempre, there were still politics as Seth and Becky were allowed to stay as a power couple. That was the New Day was literally left in the game as a voting block that let them run all the way to the finals between Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. So medyo bad moves to the done because they really should have voted Kofi out in the first round. It was funny. It's really entertaining. I didn't feel like I was watching a 45-minute show. I found myself actually laughing out loud dun sa banter nila, sa chemistry nila. So that was a pretty fun episode of The Weakest Link. I know that you know, the host is supposed to be bitchier than how Jane Lynch was. I know you said that she usually is when it's more regular people. Yeah, regular people, just yung mga sumasali lang talaga. I watched kasi all the other episodes, right, from 2021 pa. So I was also surprised na she kind of took it easy on the WWE Superstars. Very, very comedic siya. Whereas, you know, Edu Manzano was a dick to people here. I remember the Radio DJs episode. That was a classic one for me. Actually, wish may ganito pa rin. I don't know kung meron pa rin ganito sa Pilipinas. But, no, not here. I would love to have a wrestling version of it. I know in some companies you might, you know, the actual tension in the air would lead to some unkind situations outside of the show. But, you know, it is what it is. It's good if you're well adjusted, you know, it would all be in good fun. If you're familiar with the game or the premise of The Weakest Link, you just have to get 8 correct answers in a row and you have to form a chain to win the round, right? And in 2 different rounds, the wrestlers actually got 9 consecutive answers. So even Jane Lynch was frustrated that they were so impatient, bank sila ng bank, so they couldn't run the chain. To be fair, it really was unpredictable. Like, some of them would get the easiest questions wrong. So gets ka na kung bakit, okay, you got to bank kasi someone's going to fuck it up. Like Kofi was fucking it up every now and then. Big E was especially fucking it up. So gets go back to the bank ng bank kasi not every question can be a softball like Becky Lynch gets. Yeah, she was actually perfect through her first 11 or 12 questions, so that was kind of cool as well. So there, go check it out. I'll post a link because medyo di siya legit, but it's also a very clear stream of the that episode of The Weakest Link. It could have fooled me. I thought it was like an official broadcast from the network. Yeah, it was not. So they were on there because of the NBC and Peacock hookup, and it was not an NBC Peacock link that I sent you. So we'll post that on social media. WWE on The Weakest Link from last week. Really fun stuff, especially if you love game shows and wrestling. All right, let's go over to Raw, where Chino's pick of the week comes from, and he picked
the Viking rules match between Alpha Academy and, of course, the Viking Raiders. Noong una na-confused daw siya because Viking rules wasn't really defined, even though as the match played out, you could kind of see na it was basically a no DQ match and probably my false count anywhere elements din siya dun. It was good, fun violence that had a bit of everything. It was definitely sports entertaining by the moments where Maxine would get her jacket back and she would fly off the top rope, and then Maxine and Valhalla had that table spot. But, it was also really silly because of all the props like the shields and the longboat. But all in all, it was a great showcase for both teams, which had the big meaty guys in Ivar and Otis jumping around like cruiserweights. So I'm going to co-sign Chino here. I thought that the Viking rules match was a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. They worked really hard on that match. Parang Wobawi said, okay, Collision had a 1 hour tag title match, so we'll do the same. We'll have 2 good tag team matches on this show. So that was pretty good. They got a decent amount of time as well for a largely comedic tag team feud. I don't know. People, War Machine fans would probably be sad at how different the team is in the WWE now. Pero syempre, we're making that much money. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
Also surprised that nobody picked the main event of this episode of Raw, but
well, I picked it originally, but the weakest link happened, so I had to switch.
Di consensus na natin.
Pwede naman.
So yeah, this was a fun match. Really enjoyed it. You come into it with no expectations because it's a Viking rules match, and then that just apparently meant no DQ na Viking theme. But it is a lot of fun. The Atlanta crowd is also pretty hot, so that goes a long way in making the perception of this match go up.
Yeah. So there, go check that one out in case you haven't seen Raw from the last couple of weeks. Some good stuff on both episodes. Let's round out the first half with Emil's pick, which is from Dynamite, and it's the finals of the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament between MJF and Adam Cole and the team of Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia. So we mentioned being sports entertained. Ito rin, very sports entertaining. Just because of the dance-off, even the pre-match vignette where Adam Cole and MJF were being low-key racist at the Chinese restaurant. But okay, fine. Bibigay ko kay Emil. It was kind of funny. And then when they finally hit the double clothesline, it meant something kasi they were building it up, diba? Even though at the heart of it, it's just a double clothesline, like such a simple move. Pero nagpop talaga yung crowd because of the way that they made it a call and response type of thing. And you conditioned the people to really want to see MJF and Adam Cole do the double clothesline. Sabi ni Emil na he doesn't really want to extend this match, even though ikaw, Ro, you actually want for MJF and Adam Cole to team up longer, maybe even win the titles. Emil doesn't feel the same way. Yeah, he doesn't. Fun. I don't know. I can't speak for our young buck, but he doesn't feel the same way.
Na-mention ko to last week, diba? I mentioned that I wanted Adam Cole to be the one to turn on MJF kasi, Max being human is really fun. Kasi it's, as we mentioned before, when he had a prior feud that teased him being a human babyface. Parang that's the most compelling I've ever seen him in his whole time in the limelight as a major league wrestler, diba? So we're close to that happening again, and I really, really want to see it. And I think there is a good, window of time that we can still have this MJF Adam Cole team without it being too much. We're only at the tip of the iceberg. This is only the surface of what they can do, especially if they win the championships. Although I know medyo tough sell siya kasi FTR is like on their last run. But it's so crazy because FTR got almost booed because MJF and Cole were so popular and the chemistry was so undeniable. So it would be insane if you don't capitalize on this just because you are telling a longer term story. And this is the opposite of how I felt about Cody Rhodes losing at WrestleMania. As for the match itself, sorry, but we've gone into the creative territory. But as for the match itself, my favorite story was MJF finally hitting a suicide dive. Yun kasi yung mas understandable na story for me and for a lot of people, more than the double clothesline spot. Like, yes, they've been waiting to hit the double clothesline for weeks now, pero the fact that they incorporated the mini story of MJF not doing a dive until, and then it turns out that he doesn't do the dive because he thinks he can't do the dive, and not because he's trying to piss people off by cutting off the dive. So that was pretty fun, and then to see him overcome quote unquote his fear of suicide diving was pretty cathartic. And I think to me, this tag match stole the show noong Blood and Guts episode, which is kind of sad because that was your big special episode about the big violent match that only comes once a year, and then fucking MJF and Adam Cole stole it with their story. So that goes to show you that you have magic here in this pairing.
Yeah. Shout out as well to Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia, who played their parts well. The dancing was great. I really was sports entertained. And it's nice to see that post-match bit with Chris Jericho. Now, he was very disappointed in the two of them. So clearly, my development, at least, hindi sila may chapuera just because they're not the focal point of any huge stories right now. So
I want to see kung sino yung nainis with the whole sports entertainment thing about the dance-off thing. Like, they literally went for it. And, like, it's a big fuck you to everyone who is a hardcore fan of AEW because I thought AEW was the work rate show and the serious wrestling show. Then turns out your top champion, the guy you've been rooting for this entire time, and Adam Cole, the guy you've been wanting to see succeed in WWE. They're all in on this sports entertainment shit. So I want to see how many got pissed off over that.
I'd like to drink their vitriol and hatred just because it was so fun. Like, I don't understand why we can't have both, diba? It's wrestling. Wrestling is sports entertainment. So, I don't see what the big deal is at this point. One last point here, going back lang dun sa creative. I mean, if Tony Khan can book a match between Pac and Gravity, I hope he can consider just extending this tag team run just because of the clamor that some corners of the internet have clearly displayed.
I have thoughts about the Pac and Gravity matchup on Thursday.
Sige, let's save it for Thursday then.
I'm not in a bad way, but I'm bobo na.
We're going to take a break and we're going to save that for the live stream. Up on the other side, you've got the second half of our picks of the week, which includes another consensus pick. And that's right after this word from our other podcasts on Podcast Network Asia. And we're back with more of our picks of the week. Let's go over to SmackDown and talk about Owens, which is Charlotte Flair versus Io Sky. So I was reading reports over the weekend that this match was supposed to be Io Sky versus Zelina Vega, and then there were some precautions about COVID-19, so they pulled Zelina from the show and replaced her with Charlotte Flair. So I don't know if you guys ran into that report.
I know, I didn't see that. Pero it was crazy because no knock on Zelina, so she's way experienced, but this was a really good match. It wasn't like the crowd wasn't as hot for it, unfortunately, as they were for the opening 4-way, but they were really good. Like, they got time. Like, they got
15 minutes,
15 minutes. That's a long time. Whenever I thought, it has to end soon, they were still going. Rowan is right. He mentioned this on his SmackDown review, which I only got around to posting earlier today. But he mentioned that the matches got time, and there were only like 4 or 5 matches this episode, and then because of that, they all got time. And to me, when I saw that, when I observed that, I felt like, okay, medyo na-threaten sila sa Collision because Collision has been doing the same, or the original formula na less matches and then more ring time, diba? So you get more of the meat with an edited card. You don't cram too many people in, and they just delivered. And it's sad because again, no knock on Zelina, but it would have been different if it was Zelina against Io, and you kind of proved then again why for someone like Charlotte is a valuable asset to any women's division, no matter how you feel about her. And then Io is more than deserving of that big opportunity whenever that comes.
Yeah, the longer the match went, the longer I actually thought na Io might actually win. And then I had to remember no, they can't have Io beating Charlotte when she's being set up for this 3-way at SummerSlam. So you're at a point where neither wrestler could really afford the loss. So parang matatanggap na rin na someone has to lose here. And it has to be Io Sky, unfortunately. So ganun lang talaga.
Yeah.
Diba? At this point, we're past complaining about like who wins and who loses.
The thing about that is when people used to complain about who lost, when somebody reportedly pushing loses rather. That usually happened in the Vince era. Na you lose after like a 5 or 6 minute match, diba? So here it was a hard fought match. Tapos they even got rid of the whole Bailey thing by having by interweaving the Shotzi story, diba? So what we got was a competitive matchup where Io didn't look weak. It just so happened Charlotte was a better woman at this point in time, in this particular Friday.
Yeah, on that note of interweaving stories, yun then Rowan also saw that Charlotte being on her run towards Asuka's championship and Io trying to prove herself as Miss Money in the Bank, and then the sabotage or not sabotage in Bailey plus the Shotzi story. Yeah. So that was pretty good. And then a special shout out to Rowan's favorite spot of the match, which was Charlotte hitting the cartwheel lariat. Or what he calls the "Bat malungkot ang beshi ko" lariat. So nice to incorporate our local memes in that one. So there, Charlotte Flair versus Io Sky from SmackDown. Our last individual pick is from Ro, and this one is from this year's Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view from Ring of Honor.
Yeah, about the show, I know that Ring of Honor has been relegated to the new dark ng AEW, pero when they go on pay-per-view, God, it's legit. It just sucks because there are so many people that Tony Khan crams into the show that it's hard to keep up with. But this one, they nailed it. Like it every now and then, apparently, Ring of Honor feels like a legit brand again, a legit company again. And my pick for this is Katsyuori Shibata versus Daniel Garcia for the Pure Championship because it's only 15 minutes. I am a big Shibata fan, as you guys know. I'm also a big Garcia fan. So they delivered the match that I expected of them. Garcia even brought in his hip thrusting dancing gimmick. So
never gets old.
There is a spot there where he literally does that to Shibata. And then your final spot is him in the sleeper to set up for the PK, and then he still finds it in him to do the hip thrust. So it is ridiculous and crazy, and everything that you might want in a sports entertainer like Daniel Garcia going up against a super serious, no nonsense guy like Shibata. So it's a good intro, I think, to Ring of Honor and what they're all about, especially if you don't want to watch like 20-minute matches. But just to add to that, the entire last hour of the show is really, really good. They main evented with Willow versus Athena, which is huge because that's never been done before in Ring of Honor. 2 women and then 2 black women, big time. And then Claudio
Tony Khan prioritizing women's wrestling? Oh my God.
Only because the rest of only one other match was a women's match. So parang okay. He's been doing that lately. Like he did that on Rampage then with Statlander and Shafir. So parang ginawa niya, okay, just because I'm only doing one women's match a show, I'm going to do this for the main event more. So parang he thinks he can slip one past us, but I see you. I see what you're trying to do. But really, really, really good. If you have time, I know there's a lot of wrestling to watch, but if you're an AEW fan at least and you don't know what's going on over at ROH, the last hour is really, really good.
Yeah, what surprised me with this match is how game Shibata was to do the sports entertainment shit. Like, I never thought he would be the type of wrestler na, would be down to put up with the antics of someone like an Orange Cassidy or a Daniel Garcia. So, nakakatuwa to see him in that type of environment. And like, yung look of legitimate confusion on his face was basically the voice of every other wrestling fan who was watching this for the Shibata stuff. So, that was pretty cool. And then seeing Shibata forcing Garcia's body to submit to his will and to just sit there for like a good 5 seconds. That really cracked me up. So good job to both guys because I really enjoyed this match.
Yep. That is the medyo hipster pick, but I think it's very, very accessible, especially if you're, updated naman sa AEW.
Yeah, worth it naman. A good way to spend 15 minutes, at least for me, in a definitely busy Tuesday as we're recording this. All right, let's close things out with our consensus pick of the week, and that was the main event from last week's episode of Monday Night Raw. That's the Judgment Day versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. So first off, before we break it down, let's acknowledge that Kevin Owens is reportedly legitimately injured. So that's why if you watched yung Raw kanina, he wasn't in action, barely got physical. Wala pang balita on how bad the injury is or if it'll keep him out of action. So wala ring balita on how that affects his plans for SummerSlam and beyond. Right? So let's leave that there kasi yun lang ang alam natin as we're recording this on Tuesday night. But the match itself was great because that finish was a very fun clusterfuck. And I know whenever we say clusterfuck, usually it means kalat, but this time around, all of the moving parts were able to weave so many different stories together, from Raquel and Rhea, the Women's Tag Team Championships being lost by Sina Liv and Raquel, to Finn and how yung interactions niya with sina Damian and Dominic, and of course, the actual match happening in the ring. Seth Rollins, thank you for reminding me, also interfering to take out Finn Balor nung simula pa lang. So many stories were really weaved into this main event match, and it all made sense. Like, you couldn't complain just because of how it was all logical from top to bottom. So that was a very fun main event on a stacked Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, when you overbook something, usually WWE is really good at overbooking things. That's why you have like really good Roman Reigns matches. So they nailed it here again. And the thing is, I don't know if we touched on it last week, but the 6-man tag that they had on the previous week's episode of Raw, it wasn't bad. I didn't think it was bad because they still executed. But syempre, the people involved weren't happy about it because there were a lot of missed spots, miscues, timing issues. So I can see why they wouldn't be happy. But, on that level, they were still able to put out a really watchable match. And then this match was them trying to make up for it. And then they really, really did. And I think they were able to do that because they credited the whole disaster from the previous week to Vince changing things at the last minute. And I think this one did not change. They kept the plan intact all throughout the show. So they were able to do whatever they needed to do. Everything that they wrote down, I would assume, they kept in and managed to execute it. So that's why it's so good. And I guess it helps it's a tag team match instead of a 6-man tag. There is a little less complication, a little less complexity on that end. And it's just really, really good. But to the point of the injury, I don't think they'll be ending up on the card, even though they should, because I feel like the tag team championship story right now is a TV story than it is a pay-per-view story. So there is that for Kevin Owens, but it is unfortunate. It is unlucky. It happens at this level when you're wrestling every night, almost every night. And I think they got a good match out of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely agree. Prayers up for Kevin Owens. I hope that he's able to recover as soon as possible. If there's a spot for him on the card, that would be great, but hopefully not at the risk of worsening yung injury. What I'm reading from yung rumors as of today is that baka 9 matches yung card ng SummerSlam. So it might include an LA Knight match. I don't know how they're gonna put him in there, but my whispers and rumors about LA Knight still being involved, even though he lost yung 4-way on SmackDown. Yeah. I know a lot of you have thoughts on that, especially those of you who are really rooting for an LA Knight Championship run in 2023. We'll probably save that for the live stream na rin. So it gives you another reason to catch us on Thursday, all right? So 7 p.m. on Thursday on Facebook and on YouTube. Just look for us. It's the Wrestling Podcast. As we get out of here, please make sure to follow us on all of our social media pages. We're still not on Threads, and until we can fix that, hindi muna natin pa-plug yun. We're on whatever the hell Twitter is now, and on TikTok at Wrestling2XPod. And individually, you can follow us. It is at Monday Night Rowan, at Chino Supersized, at EML_Meister, at Rowiswar, and at _Stan C. Thank you very much to Babyface producer Jasper and all the other producers at PNA for all of the work that they do behind the scenes. We'll catch you on Thursday. On behalf of Ro Moran, my name is Stan C, saying thank you very much for checking out the Wrestling Podcast. Stay safe, stay healthy, and don't be a dick. Wrestling Podcast out. Bye-bye.
Peace.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia, the hosts of the program, or other programs of the network. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.